What are stock option, RSU, and restricted stock? They are different types of equity instruments. Employees can use them to own a piece of a company. The purpose is to align an employee's interest with the company's interest. If the company is doing well, then the equity is more valuable. It motivates people to work hard. A stock option is a contract that lets you buy some stock at a later date at some price. The later date is exercise window, and some price is the strike price. For example, a stock for company A is currently sold at $110 per share. Normally, to buy one share, I would need to pay $110. However, let's say company A gave me a stock option with strike price of $100 and exercise window of 30 days. This means within 30 days, I can pay just $100 to buy one share from the company instead of $110. Then, I can sell the share on the market for $110. I will earn $10 profit. The company cannot refuse to sell because they are bounded by the option contract. Note that if the stock price fell below $100, it doesn't make sense for me to exercise my option because I would lose money. RSU stands for Restricted Stock Unit. This is an agreement that the company will pay you a certain amount of stock at some future date. Future date is based on a vesting schedule. Companies often offer this as part of a job offer. For example, one offer may be 100 RSU of company A vested over 4 years. One vesting schedule could be you get 25 shares for each year you work. After 4 years, you will receive 100 shares. Restricted stock is another form of equity. They are actual stock but with a vesting schedule. For example, one typical offer may be 100 restricted stock vested over 4 years. This means on day 0, you'll receive 100 restricted stock right away. However, before the 1-year mark, the company can legally buy back 100% of your restricted stock for $0. After the 1-year mark, the company can buy back only 75% of your restricted stock for $0. After the 2-year mark, the company can only buy back 50% of your restricted stock for $0. After 4 years, they can no longer buy anything back for $0. The major difference between RSU and restricted stock is tax. Let's walk through an example. Let's say Alice is awarded 100 GSU vested over 4 years with 25% each year. Under the current tax law, Alice is taxed whenever stock vests. On year 0, Alice has not received any stock, so Alice does not pay tax. At year 1, however, Alice received 25 shares. Before the company gives the share to Alice, the company takes a portion of it and liquidates it to pay tax. Similarly, at year 2, Alice received 25 more shares, minus some for tax. Let's walk through another example. Suppose Bob has 100 restricted stock vested over 4 years. Under the current tax law, Bob is taxed when the stock vests. On year 0, Bob received all 100 shares. Bob could wait until year 1 or year 2 to pay tax just like RSU. However, Bob also has the option of paying all of the taxes upfront. This is known as 83B election. If Bob does this, he does not need to pay taxes later on. If Bob joins a startup, chances are an early startup's valuation will be very low. Therefore, the taxes Bob has to pay is also very low. If Bob doesn't do 83B election, then when startup becomes huge, the tax will also become very expensive. Typically, founders, executive, or early employees get restricted stock. Later, employees get stock options. Larger companies give its employee RSUs or stock options. One important thing to note is that equity worth money only after a liquidity event. This means IPO or acquisition. IPO means company going public. Once that happens, you can trade your 100 shares with the public for actual money. Acquisition means a larger company buys a smaller company. Once that happens, the acquisition money is used to pay out each shareholder. Lastly, I want to mention a horrible industry standard. You typically need to exercise your stock option within 90 days after you leave the company. Otherwise, the stock option is gone. Say you are working at a startup or a private company. You have worked at the startup for years. Perhaps you want to join another company. Perhaps you met a bad boss. When you leave the company, you only have a short window to decide whether to exercise your option or not. At this point, you don't know whether the company will eventually go public or be acquired. you don't know how much your option is worth. If you decide to exercise the option, you need to have enough cash to buy the actual share of the stock. Also, you need additional cash to pay for the taxes, which is due when you exercise. If the value of the company drops, it is possible you are overpaying in taxes. Fab.com used to be valued as a billion-dollar company. However, in 2015, it was acquired by PCH for an undisclosed amount. TechCrunch estimated to be as little as $15 million. This means if someone left Fab.com while it was still a unicorn, then he would be paying 5 or 6 times in taxes than he should. To avoid this, before joining a startup, negotiate to extend the window of exercise to be 10 years instead of 90 days. This will give you much more options. Thanks for watching.